Previous course. We've got player control and zombie control. The legacy problem is between zombies and players. Attack each other. Neither caused harm to the other. This lesson, we're going to design the life force system in the game. Achieve attack damage. In the game, both the protagonist and the enemy will have vitality. They are under attack. The vitality will be weakened. How do we express vitality in games? People often see blood strips when they play games. It's actually in the game, a manifestation of the protagonist's vitality. This manifestation, the bottom layer, is achieved by changing the value. Let's remember first. As you play the game, how do blood strips change? Is it full blood at first? Lose a certain amount of health each time you are attacked. Then after a period of time a certain amount of blood will be automatically restored. If the blood volume becomes 0, the player becomes dead. According to this logic, we can design a class to achieve vitality. Create a new character health class. Add maximum health point to this class. Used to set life force when full of blood. Add weather to automatically restore the health point switch. Add speed to restore health points. That is how many health points are restored each time. Add the time interval to automatically restore health points. That is how often to restore health points. The above properties are allowed to be set by the editor. So set it to public. During the running of the game, need to record the protagonist's current health point in real time. The life state of the protagonist. That is, whether the protagonist is dead or not. In addition, also needs a timer to restore health points. So we add some private attributes. And add the necessary get and set methods for subsequent calls when needed. Initialize on start method. Values of relevant parameters. In the method on update, perform automatic life recovery processing. If the automatic recovery of health points is turned on, then perform automatic life recovery processing. The logic of automatic life recovery is: first, determine whether the protagonist is dead. If not dead, then check the timer. Has the recovery time interval been reached? If not reached, continue to accumulate time. Otherwise, it means it's time to restore vitality. One more thing to keep in mind at this point: if the current health point is less than the maximum health point, need to recover. How to restore the health point. If the player has died, it doesn't need to be revived. Return directly. Otherwise, add the current health point to the health point for each recovery. There might be a problem here. If the maximum health point is 100, the current health point is 99. The set health point for each recovery is 5. Over the maximum health point of 100. So, one more judgment needs to be added. If the recovered health point exceeds the maximum health point, set the current vitality as the maximum health point. Above we are equivalent to realizing the blood return logic. There is also a bleeding logic. That is, the protagonist is hurt. Health points should be reduced. Here, need to provide a way to take damage. This method requires a parameter, because different weapons have different damage to the protagonist. Different armor, It will also cause the damage value of the protagonist to be different. The logic of this approach is: first determine whether the protagonist is dead. If death, no need to deal with it. Otherwise, the current health point minus the damage value. If the switch to automatically restore health points is turned on, reset the timer for automatically restoring health points. When the health point is below 0, set health point to 0. The protagonist enters a state of death. In addition, when the player dies, if you need to be resurrected, we need to provide a way. Reset health point. In this method, set current health point to maximum health point. Set the death status to no. Here we go. We're about to breathe life into players and zombies. Used to manage player vitality. This class is mainly used for manage the player's life and movement status. Add whether to reset the player switch to this class. And reset the player timer. Controls whether players can be resurrected after death. And how long will it take to resurrect? Since there is a timer, definitely need a timer variable. Add player health points and player controller components. In addition, is the player dead? This information affects many operations. Therefore, we are in this class. Provide a way to get used to obtain the player's life state. When the player dies, the player is out of control. No matter how you move the joystick, no player should react. So we start in the player controller. Add a control switch. Provide both get and set methods. Then, in the event callback function for player movement and rotation, add a prejudgment. If the player is out of control, then return directly. Then in the Play Manager class, increase the get and set methods that the player can control. Same. In the Player Controller class, we'd better change the direction of the player's movement. And the angle of view. Easy to use when needed later. In the Player Movement and Rotation method, record movement direction and viewing angle direction. Then in the Play Manager class, increase acquisition, how the player gets the direction of movement and perspective. It is convenient to call when needed later. In the Play Manager laid on start method, acquire players, vitality components and groups. And check the components. Certainly, these debug output statements It is only used during our development process. It is best to delete it after the test is passed. Here we go. Key point. It is to realize the player's death and resurrection logic. In the Player Manager category, if the player dies, then publish the event that the player's gun status changes, and the player is uncontrollable after death. If the player resurrection switch is not turned on, then return directly. If turned on, then judge the resurrection timer and resurrection time. If the resurrection time is reached, resurrect the player. Otherwise, continue to accumulate resurrection timer. And finally, we need to give the player node Mount Vitality component character health and group player manager. At this moment, zombie attack player damage has not yet been implemented. Even if the player is besieged by zombies, they will still not fall to the ground. We need to breathe life into zombies too, and achieve zombie attack damage. Zombies have health points. A zombie attack will cause the health point of the target life object changes. So we're in the Zombie Breaker custom script. Add the zombie's own life component and target life components. Initialize the life component in the onStart method. Zombie attack target. Will cause damage to the target. Find a way for zombies to launch an attack. Add attack damage to the target. Same. Zombies can also be damaged when attacked. In our game, zombies are only wounded by bullets. After the zombies are attacked to a certain extent, the state of the zombie will change. May enter a state of death. So, we're going to be in the update method on the zombie breaker script. Determine if the zombie is dead. If death. To update the zombie status. In addition, one more thing to keep in mind. Our zombies are placed in a pool of objects. When generating zombies, it is taken directly from the object pool. So, when generating zombies, need to reset the parameters of the newly generated zombie. You can think of it as restoring the factory settings. Find the Level Manager class. Find the business code in which the zombie is generated. Add a method to reset zombie parameters. Then click. This method will be created in the Zombie Destroyer class. In this method, first determine whether the vitality component exists. If it exists, reset life. Enable both roll group and navigation components. Sets the current state of the zombie not idle. Play the initial animation simultaneously. And finally, need to remake zombie prefab. Add vitality components to zombie nodes. The original zombie prefab. Drag into the scene. Generate node. Open. Afterwards, add vitality to the node component character health. Then delete the original zombie prefab. Then drag the node into the prefabs folder. Make a new zombie prefab. Simultaneously, remember the level manager. To rebind the zombie prefab object, run the test. Discover zombies besieging players. Players still won't fall to the ground and die. Player fires. Zombies won't be harmed either. Leave for homework. Everyone check for themselves first. Next class. Let's add a player blood strip UI first. It is convenient to intuitively observe the changes in the player's vitality. And then we'll teach you debugging skills.